Right. Hi, everyone that is listening to this recording. I'm Sam, and this is Georgina.
Hello.
um, I asked Georgina if she would join me on doing a quick recording for all existing Airship customers and anyone interested in either getting more out of their existing CRM or looking for a new CRM provider. The reason being is that there's loads of little hidden features and sections of Airship that I'm learning about since I've joined. And there's one in particular that really interests me that kind of takes Airship a long way above and beyond your traditional email marketing platforms where you've got a flat list of your customer data, which you might use for a newsletter or for birthday emails triggered on certain dates. And there's something called proof of presence or POP. And when Georgina and the guys at Airship were introducing me to this shortly after I joined, it was really exciting. And it's something that I don't know if we make enough of a song and dance about for our current customers or prospective customers. So I'd asked Georgina if she'd let me ask her a few questions about POP or proof of presence and how her department used this to basically increase customer visit frequency for all the different operators and hospitality that we work with. So this short video is titled "Using Proof of Presence to Increase Your Customer Visit Frequency," starring Georgina and myself.
Cool.
So I thought it might help to kind of introduce ourselves. So I'll let you go first, Georgina. This is one of the few slides she let me complete. So I've decided your title for today can be the Queen of Pop.
Okay, great. So I am head of customer success. So any of your sort of like support needs or anything like that in Airship, you've probably already spoken to me. And apparently also I am Queen of Pop.
Yes.
That's cool.
And I'm Sam. I joined Airship back in July. And I am absolutely a POP novice. So I'm learning a lot about it very quickly. But I thought today's session would be good for me and for other people like myself who don't know exactly how powerful proof of presence within the Airship platform can be. A little history about Airship. So we've been in the sector for 18 years supporting UK hospitality. We've got over 400 customers who are all hospitality operators of various sizes, from individual venues up to groups of hundreds of locations. And we've now got 10,000 live locations using our platform. We've collected over 20 million lines of customer data, which is about a third of the UK population, I believe, something like that. So we know a couple of things about data and how to get the most out of it. We've got 44 live tech integrations into other partners, and that could be anything from guest Wi-Fi, guest feedback, table booking, order at table, literally anything of 15 different pots that you might be using to collect data on your customers and understand them and interact with them. And we're also the people behind Toggle, gift cards, and Track2, which is our track and trace platform we launched a couple of months ago, which is a big success. If anyone still needs anything along those lines, just let us know. The photo you can see here is actually our CEO, which I think most of the sector will know by now, Dan Brookman, in his early 20s when he bought an abandoned swimming pool on the outskirts of Sheffield and turned it into a late night venue. Which is where his love affair with hospitality started, and actually where Airship was born, in the attic, under a different name, but using data he'd collected from a membership platform that he was selling to customers to engage with them and increase their visit frequency. So that's where it all began. But specifically, today's recording is what is POP. So, Georgina, would you mind kind of just explaining in layman's terms what is POP?
Yeah, okay. So POP or proof of presence. If you're already an Airship customer, you'll have heard us banging on about this quite a lot. It is basically the way that we can tell that your customers have been in a venue. So for example, we could look at all your data integrations and sort of categorize your customers based on how often they're visiting. So how often they're booking, how often they're logging into Wi-Fi, that sort of stuff.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, and the next slide would really help me. So my main question when I joined was, how do I get proof of presence from my customers? Because I think for most operators, your customers are in the real world over here, visiting your bar or restaurant or cafe, and my CRM is on my laptop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do I actually get proof of presence for my customers as an operator?
Yeah, okay. So the more data integrations that you have switched on, the more POP you can get. So the more integrations that you have, the better, really. So for example, if we take some of these, so wireless social, We obviously integrate with them. We get a flow through to your database. So if you're a customer, you've got a database, your wireless social data flows in. It logs the contact data, but it also logs the Wi-Fi interaction data. So we know that Sam Brown visited that venue yesterday at 3 p.m. We can also then look at your booking platform, so say Collins, for example, and we know that you also booked a table at 2:30 yesterday in this venue. We compare those to each other and make sure that that's only one pop, basically. So you never get a duplication of more than one pop. The same with feedback, the same with loyalty, all that sort of stuff. And all of these on here are the integrations that we work with and where we can get pop from, basically.
Okay. And so I guess that every time a customer logs into it, visits a venue, we're hoping that more often than not, they will leave some sort of imprint of pop.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, for Airship customers specifically, if they're using Airship track and trace, that is a pop.
It is. Yeah. Track and trace is a pop as well. So if you're collecting marketing data on your track and trace as well, that's also a pop.
Amazing.
And the other important thing to say with this as well is that we obviously categorize customers. So we mark them as opted in or opted out of marketing, depending on how they interact with you. For the integrations, well, the majority of the integrations, we also get opted out data. So this is especially important with like booking data. So you'll get opted in booking data and opted out booking data. And even though you can only mark it to the opted in, you get like a clear picture from both, because you can see how often people are visiting, even if you're not opting in.
Amazing. Okay, cool. And then the next thing for me, when I'd figured all this out and I finally got my head around it, was how can I actually use pop to understand customer activity? And then you showed me this slide, which again massively helps. So could you explain a little bit of that? So how can operators use it to understand what their customers are actually doing and their behavior?
Yeah, exactly. So all this data goes into Airship, into the back end. And we use it firstly to create, well, the first thing that we did when we were sort of thinking about pop and what we could do with it, was that we created a load of reports to help you understand the data. So this is one of the first reports that we did, and this basically categorizes, well, it tells you how many customers have visited and how many times they visited. So you can see that you've got a large number of customers up here in this example. So 11,000 customers have only visited once within this given time range. You can then see that it drops off a lot. So you've got that's 64% of your database, but then only 16% of your database have visited twice. And you can just kind of see all the way down as it sort of trickles down to 10 or more visits. However, the important thing with this is, so you've only got 610 people that have visited 10 or more times, but that actually equates to 14,000 visits. So even though this number is a lot smaller than this number, the actual visits are significantly higher. So it suggests that you might want to look after the customers that are visiting 10 or more times, or 5 or more times, or whatever, in a completely different way to those that you're visiting once, so they might be visiting for the first time.
Of course, and and it highlighted to me just what a massive difference, and this is obvious to anyone in the sector, obviously, but how turning someone that's a one-time visitor into a multiple-time visitor can massively increase your total headcount that you're seeing through the door.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And they're your most loyal visitors, so they're the ones that are coming back again and again, just naturally anyway. If you can influence them, or if you can even influence the people that are visiting once to visit twice, it's going to make a massive difference.
Of course. And then I guess the next thing is, and I remember having a meeting with someone in the sector a couple of years ago talking about huge mountains of data and great insight and great data collection. And he looked at me and just said, so what? I was like, how does this help me? I'm, trying to sell chicken burgers and beers to the public, and there's a massive amount of data over here. And it was a great question. It's something I think people should ask more often, is just because something sounds cool, like, so what? How does this help me achieve what I'm trying to do? So how does this help me as an operator to achieve what I'm trying to do?
Yeah, okay. So all that data that we've just looked at, the next step was then to think about exactly what you said. How do we do anything with it? How can our customers go onto their Airship account and make sure that the customers that are only visiting once are actually visiting twice or 3 times? So we created pop segments, which you can see on here. And this basically, it creates segments that your customers sit in. So we've got prospect guests at the top. So they are customers that we don't know that they've visited before. So they could have visited organically, but they've not logged into Wi-Fi, they've not made a booking, they've not used a unique code, they've not left feedback, they've not left a digital signature, basically. You've then got bronze guests who have visited once within a set time period, silver guests who have visited twice within a set time period, but with the most recent visit within, say, 30 days or something like that.
Okay.
And the criteria for these segments can be different depending on your needs. So like a fast service restaurant might be completely different to like a event-based restaurant or something like that. So the criteria behind it is very flexible, and it's something that you can kind of talk to our team about when we set them up for you. But as a standard sort of setup, we're just setting them up to look at data over the past year, just to give everybody a sort of example of what they can see. And then it goes all the way down to lapsed guests down here, who may not have visited the venue at all in the past year, but we know they visited previously. So they were once, a regular visitor, or they were coming in on a regular basis, but they've not visited in the past year.
And this is one of the many things that so far has blown my mind about the power of Airship, because it's so true. Having spent a long time working in hospitality on the tech side of things, you'll often come up against, mountains of really interesting data, which is powerful. And you can see when you're talking to people, it's obvious that it's got value to the huge amount of your customers' behavioral or demographic data or spend history or feedback. And it's then, well, how do I use this to actually help me? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so even just this step, even if it went no further, just the fact that we can segment for customers their customers into different pots and just let them speak to them differently, that's so valuable, because at the moment, a lot of the platforms out there that most people are still using are just kind of a flat database. And unless it's little triggers like date of birth, for example, they're all getting spoken to in the same way, which obviously isn't what you want. So yeah, it's so powerful, just this element on its own.
And this is available, like when we activate segments on the account, this page is available for everyone, so they can just log into it as much as they want, and keep a record of kind of like how many bronze customers they've got one week compared to the next, if they want to, as well, which is quite nice. You can just go in and sort of see who's in there.
And as well, like people, our customers can download these data sets in isolation. So, for example, they could download their platinum guests and go and upload that to, say, Facebook, for example, to do a lookalike audience against.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. But from an Airship related point of view in isolation, what is really interesting is how can I use these pop segments to influence my customers' behavior?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we've got these pop segments. What do you do with them now? So you can either, there's two options. You can target them as like a campaign email. So you could go on and just decide to send an email to all your platinum guests on a Friday because you've got some last minute tables to fill or something like that. The cleverer thing to do as well is that you can set up date triggers. So you can set up automated emails based on what your customers do and how they engage with you. So you could have a date trigger to go one day after a customer becomes a silver guest, for example. So they've visited twice, they kind of, they like you, they've been back, but how do you get them down to the platinum guest? So you can set a date trigger up to go the day after that says, thanks for visiting, leave us some feedback, here's a voucher for your next visit, something like that. And then you can keep triggering emails during the time in that segment until they move on to the next segment, and then they start kind of like a new journey. So it's really clever, and like we've kind of put together this little graph that's in some of our support articles as well. That just gives you an idea of how customers can move down the segments, if that makes sense. So the idea is that you might initially have a lot of people in this bronze or in this prospect segment, but the idea is to try and funnel them down so that there's more in the platinum and less in the bronze. And segmenting them like this just means that you can talk to them differently as well. So you might talk to somebody, if you go to a local pub or whatever, they know what your favourite drink is because you go in every week. Yeah. Whereas the bronze guest, you're a brand new customer, so they might tell you more about the brand or what you've got going on generally. Whereas the platinum guest, they might just be interested in, I don't know, the events you've got going on or their favourite cocktail or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can kind of cater your how you speak to them based on their interaction with you, which is quite nice.
Well, yeah, amazing when you can get to that level.
Yeah.
And so could you do, different messages in that as well? So could the birthday message that someone in a bronze receive be different to that of a platinum?
Yeah. So you can target the segments in any way that you want to, really, with our date. Yeah, with the date triggers.
Okay, so you could, as you said before, you could trigger your communications even around things that affect your entire database. So Christmas bookings, or a Father's Day campaign, or birthday, or January, and you can have that triggered message go out with a slightly more appealing or slightly appreciative message to your platinums.
Yeah.
But then with quite a strong incentive for your bronzes to come in again to start to turn themselves into a multiple site visitor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you could offer your platinum guests the first come bookings or something for Christmas, so that it's like a VIP treatment kind of thing. Yeah, you can do it based on the segments.
And as you get to know your silver, gold, and platinum customers better, can you pull on any kind of data point to kind of customize the emails? So if you had something that was revealing if someone was a vegan or a vegetarian or a meat eater, you could have different communication that goes out to those different groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could do something. So we have kind of different forms and things that you can use to generate more information about your customers. So you could email out to your platinum guests saying, we want to know a little bit more about you. Tell us your dietary requirements, all that sort of stuff. And then you can segment that in the database as well.
Okay.
So then you can talk to them differently about, you might not send a vegan something about the steak, or
Yeah. Here's the new Angus steak burger. Yeah, it makes sense. Let's not do that. Okay. And so how long does this take to set up? Because obviously it sounds very powerful, and I've seen firsthand that it is very powerful, which is amazing. But as a customer, it does sound quite heavy duty, possibly, who've got a lot on, especially this year. So if I'm an Airship customer and I'm on board, how long does it take for me personally? How much input do you require from me, and how long would it take to get this live, POP specifically?
Yeah, so the POP segments we just activate as standard when you come on board with us. So we'll do it as part of the onboarding process. So that means that all your data is automatically segmented. The thing that takes a little bit longer is thinking about the journeys. But the nice thing is, once they're set up, you can kind of just ignore them and they just tick away in the background. So it'll take a little bit of work to get the actual journeys set up and think about who you want to get what and when you want them to get it. But once they're set up, they're just there and they just go out, and you don't have to think about them anymore. And the nice thing about that is that you can kind of like tell a story a little bit in your journey. So you might tell customers, you might tell your bronze guests all about your brand, and then you don't have to think, all right, I need to send a message about my gift cards in this week's newsletter, because you know that customers are getting it when they come on board anyway.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned about the triggered journeys. Are there a specific kind of handful of triggered journeys that we would recommend people set up when they join Airship, like the kind of the basics that you would always recommend that everyone has in play?
Yeah, we've got the bare minimum stuff. So we've got like the welcome email, the birthday emails, and then retention. So welcome email is that initial acknowledgement that the customer's signed up. And it's really important, even if you're not sort of thinking about a full journey, to just get something initially set up and then come back to it, and you can add to the journey afterwards. But there's nothing worse than signing up to something and then just not getting anything. You're like, have a sign up? I don't know what I've done. So yeah, that's a really important one. Then you can think about the welcome journey alongside this POP journey as well. Because we always talk about how we think that the welcome journey should be like 4 to 6 emails over the course of a couple of months.
Okay.
And again, it's just a really nice way to introduce people to your brand, and they just sort of tick along. You don't have to think about it. You can have one about gift cards, you can have one about bookings, you can have one about whatever you want, and they just go out in the back. And then you've got things like birthday emails that can drive bookings up to a customer's birthday. So as long as you're collecting date of birth, so that's always an important thing that customers ask, do I need to collect my date of birth on my sign-up form? And we always advise that they do, because you can do some really powerful marketing with it as well. So 14 days before the customer's date of birth, you could send them an email to say, why don't you book with us? And it's all really simple stuff. It just requires a little bit of thinking beforehand and planning how it works.
And am I right in thinking as well, if we are integrated with your table booking software, if that person whose birthday is coming up does have a live booking in your booking software, it can suppress that invite for them to book the table because we know
exactly.
they've already done that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so you're not annoying people that have already booked by going book with us, because you know that they've already done it. And you can use like our unique code system as well. So even if we don't have an integration with your EPOS for unique codes, we can do unique codes via our little web app. So we know if somebody's been assigned a code or if they've redeemed it. So say you send somebody, I don't know, a free cocktail for the birthday. You could send another email a week later, but just exclude anybody that's already used that offer.
Oh, really? Okay, great. And I guess the main thing here is that when someone does join Airship or an existing Airship customer wants to do this, they don't have to figure this out on their own, do they?
No.
Because it could sound quite daunting, I think, to someone even who's a seasoned professional, marketeer or comms expert in the sector, to kind of plan this all out. But I mean, the reality is that you and your success team must have done this hundreds of times for hundreds of different brands.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we sort of help you through the onboarding, and then we're here to help if you have any questions or whatever after.
Great.
And we've also got a support site. So for both Airship and Toggle, we have like a series of articles that you can go on and sort of read, and it's got stuff like this information in here that just tells you about POP and all the other stuff that you can do on Airship.
Amazing. And I think you've got a couple of examples or kind of invitations for people to go and learn more information if they want to here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can go on support, you can email us. So a good thing to do if you are already an existing Airship customer. Obviously a lot's been going on this year, but if you've got time and you want to think about POP, just drop us an email and one of us, me, Lorna, Stephen, whatever, we can all have a chat with you and just get you up and running and just help with any questions. And the other good thing that we have as well is our fictional restaurant. So Joina's Kitchen, you can basically sign up to that and it will send you a load of emails with like mechanics in. So it'll show you like a unique code journey, a birthday email, a sign up form, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite nice, and yeah, loads of good information on there.
It took me far too long to realise that Joina's Kitchen, A, wasn't a real place, and B, is just a world-class pun. So yeah, it was embarrassing on 2 points there. But for anyone who is listening and hasn't yet, even as an existing customer that hasn't visited Joina's Kitchen and signed up, is a great place to experience.
Right, I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background.
We almost made it the entire way through without any animals interrupting. To go to Joina's Kitchen because it's a great way to see the full kind of recommended communication flow through Airship. So it kind of highlights all the different ways that we would recommend using the platform to you personally from this fictional venue. That's amazing. I know you are incredibly busy, Georgina, but I really appreciate you taking the time to do this because I think it will really help people looking to change their CRM or upgrade their current use of the Airship platform. So I appreciate that. Right. We will leave you all to enjoy the rest of your days. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day and go and help out your dog. And thank you so much.
There we go.
Right. I will catch up with you soon, Georgina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all. Bye.